A little Southern horror, aka romance, from the October 2021 edition of Free Radicals. Make-believe magic. I've never liked being alone. Women aren't supposed to say that, but it's not as if I need a man. I can change a tire, fix the roof, and kill all the June bugs myself. I want a man. I crave that belonging, that hunger, that feeling of being almost all the way inside someone else's skin when they hold you. Unhealthy, folks say. That's not much worry to me. I eat moonshine cherries for breakfast and smoke a pipe after dinner every night. I'd as soon be unhealthy for love as anything else. When Katie offered to voodoo marry me and Jigger, I jumped at it. Katie didn't have an ounce of Creole blood in her, of course. The brown in her skin came from an entirely different part of the world. But growing up down here, there was always enough magic hanging hot in the air that two little girls couldn't help reaching for it, even if it wasn't their own. Katie was my queen. She made us cottonwood wands and Louisiana potions and led us unfailingly through the woods and weeds. She didn't have anybody better to belong to than me, and the night-eyed basket weavers at the weekend market we swore to each other had to be priestesses. And while I may have known better, there's rules to friendship. I wouldn't have let anybody else lie to Katie, but no way would I steal her illusions away from her when they were all that kept her stitched up. I'd love Jigger almost as long as I lived Katie. We were barely legal when we married. Even then, I had that weird, hot, desperate feeling in the back of my throat. And all I could think about was keeping him forever. So we went to Katie the night before we went to the priest, and she swore we'd never be apart. They were both right. My hot, desperate feeling took the shape of a state trooper telling me Jigger hadn't made it out of the car that rolled into the river. But that night, when I finally crawled into bed, wet and wrung out and wild with weeping, I felt Jigger's big arms wrap me up tight. His warm breath whispered against my ear. I didn't know if it was Katie's make-believe magic or our own stubbornness, but our love held tight, tighter than any river or any grave. All days became nights to me. Strange as it seems, I was hungrier for my Jigger than I had been when he was whole and alive beside me. I felt less real in my skin suit than he was. I ached for his lips, his hands on my body. Food was dust in my mouth, and even whiskey tasted like swamp water. I did my best to go through the motions, show up for my shifts, buy the groceries, pay the bills, but I was only rushing to be alone in our house again with him. Rushing to feel his spirit pouring through my lips, his strength crashing over my limbs. I didn't need sleep anymore. All I needed was to feel his shape hardening beneath me, to watch the flush wash over his face as I breathed life back into him with every kiss, every whispered word. Katie, who should have understood better than anyone, became the bane of our little sanctuary. At first, she tried to tempt me with pot pies and girls' nights outs and shine, but I could hardly even hear her talk, lost as I was in Jigger's gaze over her shoulder. She swore she didn't see him. Didn't hear him, but I knew better. I saw the fear and fury flashing in her eyes, so I wouldn't let her inside anymore. She took to walk in circles around the house, burning this and that and shouting her incants to the stars, but Jigger and me paid her no mind. Then she brought the priest out, and I knew something had to change. Jigger couldn't cross back to me, and I wasn't about to let them exile him from me. Magic had kept us wrapped up in each other, and I couldn't risk some other kind of magic unraveling us. In this world with its weeping willows and brackish water and filthy air held nothing for me. Everything I wanted was just the other side of the shadow. Everything but Katie, of course. She might not understand, but she was still the sister of my heart. How I felt about Jigger was how she felt about me. We'd shared a few kisses and cuddles of our own, just enough to keep us both breathing through the loneliness. Even then, till Jigger died, she'd never shown the slightest jealousy. She was the real deal. All she wanted was me happy. That was all I wanted for her, too. This place we were stuck in was nothing but meanness and misery. What folks she'd had were lost to meth and prison cells a long time ago. Make-believe magic was all she had left. A good friend keeps a girl's illusions safe for her. She wanted to save me so bad, she didn't think to distrust me when I asked her to go riverboating with me tonight. Jigger's waiting for us down by the dock. I've got a mason jar full of moonshine cherries and a bottle of port wine to make the passing easier. Jigger will help keep us under the water when we finally go in. Then we'll all be together again, the witch, the hazel, and the oak. Katie always did believe in happy endings, despite everything. Tonight, I'm going to give her one.